And this is why they operate like this. They operate by controlling what appear to be sides and antagonists in the five sense reality, but in fact, it's just a movie. It's part of a game pushing the agenda for Orwellian control. This is what I'm talking about with that image earlier. These people, they might appear to fight in the movie, but actually they're controlled ultimately by the same force to the same end. And some of these will be the reptilian bloodline, some of them might not be. I think most of these probably are. But these are just puppets. Even they might be powerful puppets over people below them in the structure, but they're still puppets of the shadow people who are really calling the shots and deciding what goes on and what doesn't. And because of this genetic situation in the hybrid bloodlines of empathy, lack of empathy, because of the predominance compared with the general population of the reptilian brain genetics, they can do horrendous things that we couldn't even contemplate because we have empathy with the victims of our actions. They do not. Without that emotional consequence, there are no limits, and we see that on the news every day. Another coordinate, the way that we are manipulated through what are mind and emotional manipulation techniques. Problem, reaction, solution. It was a term I came up with years ago to describe something that is known as the Hegelian dialectic among people with, who like long syllables. And makes you sound really clever, you know. It would never make me sound clever, bloody hell. Crown Hill Secondary Modern. Third window on the left with the best view of the games period. That was me at school. Problem, reaction, solution. The highest official level of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry is the 33rd degree, and it has this motto, Ordo ab chaos, order out of chaos. And it translates to me as problem, reaction, solution. It works like this. You want to change society in a certain way here. You know that if you announce that openly, you're going to get an adverse reaction from the people. Imagine if the changes that have happened since 9/11 in terms of the destruction of freedoms and civil liberties had been proposed without 9/11. What you do? We're doing. This is a fascist state. We're not having this. Oh, well, no, we've got to have it because it's terrorists. You know, problem, reaction, solution. So, you don't announce it openly. You, at stage one, create a problem. Terrorist bomb. I'm coming out. Terrorist bomb. I've got a wire loose. I read that in the Mirror once. He's got a wire loose, he said. They're right. And you create a problem. Terrorist bomb, war, run on a currency, credit crunch, rising food prices. Anything that will allow you to offer the solution you want to change society. You then tell the people the version of the problem that you want them to believe, i.e. Bin Laden did this, Lee Harvey Oswald did this. And the pathetic mainstream media, instead of investigating the official version, just repeat it to the people, and the people at stage two are supposed to react, and most of the time they do. React with outrage, with fear, and they say, something must be done, this can't go on, what are they going to do about it? At which point, those who've covertly created the problem got that reaction, offer the solutions to the problems they have themselves covertly created. And those solutions are changes in society which advance the Orwellian state and the centralization of power, so the few can have more and more power over the many by this centralization of power. So if you look at the Second World War, these bloodlines were behind Soviet communism. They were behind the capitalist countries, or cartelist countries in truth, of the West, and they were behind, including America, and they were behind Nazi fascism, bringing Hitler to power. They then bring them in conflict called a Second World War. Massive problem. The Second World War in just a few years, and people were saying in their desperate state, something must be done, this can't go on. They were open to stop this, no more war. And so we got the solution, we'll centralize global power. So out of this came the European Union. That was justified too. Let's trade instead of fight, which sounded good at the time, but actually that wasn't the agenda. The United Nations, and an explosion of centralization of power in banking and business and politics on a global level, justified by the problem. None of which would have happened had it not been for the Second World War, which these bloodlines funded, including the Bush family. The George Bush's grandfather, Prescott Bush, was one of the major conduits for funding Hitler through a company called the Union Banking Corporation that interfaced with the banking and steel empire of a guy called Fritz Thyssen in Germany, who was an acknowledged funder of Hitler. And through that, how does anyone think that Germany went from thousands of % inflation to a war machine that can take on the world in a few years because of outside influence and support, because they wanted that war? There's even another version of this now called no problem reaction solution, i.e. weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. You don't even need a real problem. You just need the perception of it. It's all a bloody mind game. And so when you look at 9/11, the official story is like something from Alice in Bloody Wonderland. It's a fairy story. And all these anomalies come up. And anomalies come up for a simple reason. Cover stories aren't true. There must be anomalies. This is Building 7 as it was falling, with the bloody blasts coming out as it came down like a controlled explosion. That looks like a controlled explosion to me. You know why? Why? Because it bloody was. That's why. This is typical. This is a BBC reporter who's reporting on 9/11 that Building 7 has fallen. It was in the shot behind her, right? It fell 20 minutes later. And then when you point this out, people say, so you're saying the BBC's in on the conspiracy? No, mate. I'm saying they let the press release out 20 minutes sodding early. That's what. That's why some other people in the media reported it 20 minutes earlier and all. It was orchestrated. Problem, reaction, solution. Yeah, jet fuel brought those buildings down. I love it. This is a picture by a guy called David Dees, who I think is in the audience today, David Dees. David Dees, you may see on my website and rents.com and stuff, does these extraordinarily brilliant compilations of images to make mighty statements in one image. And anything you see like this is a David Dees image today. The one earlier with the Clinton and McCain and Obama was one of his, obviously, as well. This is another one. This is the bandana. They call them bandanas or something close to that. Headscarf to me. Anyway, this was found apparently at the scene of the crash of Flight 93 in Pennsylvania. There was hardly any bloody wreckage. As one person on the scene said, there was nothing you couldn't carry away the size of a telephone directory, and yet they found this headscarf, which in the official story was worn by one of the hijackers. Well, where did he end up? You don't seem to have found him. He's gone missing, but his headscarf survived. Did he demanifest? I mean, bloody hell. Bloody passports that are found next to Ground Zero that have come out of a plane that firebombed a building. Bloody hell. Korans left everywhere. I don't know. Why don't they take them with them? I reckon they were the Islamic version of the Gideons. I think they did it. I think they did it. I blame them. Bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. And And more people, even academics, left-brain academics, are looking at the left-brain version of this and saying, don't make sense, mate. And it don't. And this was a poster I found on the internet, which may be real or may be right. It looks real to me with the trees in the background. But on September the 11th, ask yourself, when history repeats, do we notice? It was the Nazis that burnt down the German Parliament building and blamed someone else to justify introducing the fascist state, in effect, in Germany. There you go. The war on terror is a war by terrorists to get us to succumb to the terrorists. Inside job. And more people are beginning to understand that. Hallelujah. And because they're creating problems which they can put solutions to, you find the same people turning up with the problem and the solution quite often. This is 1983. This is Donald Rumsfeld, who on behalf of the Father Bush-Reagan administration was going to meet Saddam Hussein to arrange the shipment from America of biological and chemical weapons to Iraq to use against the Iranians, and these were used against the Kurds. Oh, we've got to stop Saddam Hussein. He used chemical weapons against the Kurds. Yes, the buggers you gave him. This is how it works. Don't take my word for it. This is official documents. This is a report on the release of these documents in 2002, I think it was. Donald Rumsfeld, the US Defense Secretary and one of the most strident critics of Saddam Hussein, met the Iraq president in 1983 to ease the way for US companies to sell biological and chemical weapons, including anthrax and bubonic plague cultures, according to newly declassified US government documents. And then he says, they've got chemical weapons, stop Saddam Hussein, we must invade. He was on the board of this European engineering giant called ABB in 2000 when they sold nuclear technology to North Korea. When he became defense secretary in the Bush administration, he said, North Korea is a threat to the world because they've got nuclear technology. This is how it works. Create the problem, offer the solution. Then we've got this guy. This guy was pulled out of Saudi Arabia to front up the Mujahideen fight against the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, funded by the Saudi royal family, by America, by Britain. The Mujahideen were taken to America to, as I've documented in books and other talks, to be trained in terrorism operations. The British military sent people to train them, and they then became the terrorists that we're supposed to give our freedoms away to fight. And a few years ago, well, actually very much more recently than that, maybe about a year ago, this guy, Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was the national security advisor in the Carter administration up to 1979, or 1980 actually, he admitted publicly that he had orchestrated to manipulate the Soviets to invade Afghanistan because he wanted to cause them a major problem, and then had they started to create the resistance to that invasion which caught the Soviet Union in that spider's web. Guess who the main person behind "I'm against war" Barack Obama is? Zbigniew Brzezinski. I want change. I wish you did, mate. I wish you bloody did. Another front man, another bullshitter, another person who's selling you a cover story. But so are the other two, mind. So are the other two. We have choice. We've got freedom. So what we're looking at is the secret agenda unfolding through history, and it's playing out a movie version of events. The past part of the movie we call official history, which is keeping us from what's actually happening.